The value of currency is linked to how strong a country's economy is and how much demand there is for that currency. However, there's another element that often comes into play. Central banks in countries can step in and buy up large amounts of their own currency to push up its demand and keep its value high, creating an artificial market. For example, over the last 2.5 years, the Russian central bank has repeatedly intervened in the market, trying to control the value of the ruble and keep it stable. They aimed to maintain a rate of about 90 rubles to the dollar. However, despite their efforts, in the past few weeks, the ruble has started to lose value again. Over the last 5 years, the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Russian ruble has seen huge changes. Starting in September 2019, one US dollar was worth about 65 Russian rubles. Over the next 2 years, leading up to the end of 2021, the ruble was around 70 rubles to the dollar. But the situation took a dramatic turn with the invasion of Ukraine. The ruble's value went down drastically. At its lowest point, one US dollar was equal to around 130 rubles. This sharp decline was a clear indication of the immediate financial impact of Ukraine's invasion on Russia's economy. In response to this collapse, the Russian central bank intervened heavily in the currency market. They began buying large amounts of rubles in an effort to stabilize the currency and push its value back up. This action by the central bank aimed to create a demand that would help lift the ruble's value against the dollar. As we observe what's been happening recently, especially in the past few weeks, it's evident that the ruble is facing continued volatility. Despite the central bank's efforts to control the ruble's depreciation through market interventions, there are ongoing challenges. However, maintaining the ruble at a high value was proving costly for the Russian central bank, which led them to ease their control and allow the market to play a larger role in determining the ruble's value. By the beginning of August 2023, the ruble had weakened, with one US dollar trading for over 100 rubles. In response, President Putin took decisive steps. He directed the Russian central bank to resume purchasing rubles in the open market to bolster the currency's value. He also implemented several regulations that limited the amount of foreign currency that Russian businesses and individuals could hold. These new laws compelled them to convert their foreign holdings back into rubles, thereby boosting the domestic demand for the currency. As a result of these aggressive strategies, by the start of January 2024, the ruble had strengthened, with the exchange rate stabilizing around 90 rubles to one US dollar. This level of 90 rubles appears to be the target that the Russian government aims to maintain. Observations up to the end of July 2024 indicate that the ruble has been consistently trading at or near this desired exchange rate of 90 to one US dollar. Over the last month, there's been a noticeable shift in the value of the Russian ruble. On August the 6th, one US dollar was trading for about 85 Russian rubles. Today, that figure has risen to 92.5 rubles per dollar, marking a decline of over 8% in just a few weeks. This period of fluctuation clashes with major geopolitical events. August the 6th specifically marks a crucial turning point. It was the day Ukraine started a military offensive into the Kursk region and captured a major portion of territory previously controlled by Russia. While the drop in ruble's value isn't directly tied to the military actions themselves, the timing aligns with a strategic change by the Russian central bank. During this period, the bank appears to have pulled back from its usual practice of boosting the ruble by purchasing large amounts of the currency on international markets. This cessation has exposed the ruble to market forces more directly than before, leading to its rapid depreciation. The withdrawal of support from the central bank suggests a few potential scenarios. It could indicate that Russia is trying to conserve its foreign currency reserves, which might be under strain due to the prolonged nature of its geopolitical conflicts and the resulting economic sanctions. The decrease in intervention could also reflect a strategic shift in how Russia is choosing to handle its currency amidst these external pressures. This change has significant implications. with the central bank stepping back, the ruble's value is more vulnerable to market sentiment and external economic influences. This situation puts more pressure on Russia's financial stability, making the country's economic outlook more uncertain. As the ruble weakens, it could lead to higher inflation and squeeze on Russian consumers, further complicating the economic challenges facing Russia. Over the past 18 months, Russia has significantly increased its war spending, which has begun to drain the national financial reserves. If Russia continues to spend at this pace without increasing its revenue, there's a real risk that these reserves could eventually deplete. This financial strain is becoming evident through the weakening of the ruble as the Russian central bank struggles to sustain its program of buying rubles to support the currency's value. This situation suggests that Russia is reaching a critical point where it must make tough decisions about how and where to allocate its dwindling resources. The current economic strain is an early indicator of deeper financial troubles, signaling that the country might be running low on cash. To understand the severity of the ruble's decline, consider its performance over the past 25 years. The current exchange rate of 92.5 rubles to the US dollar is among the worst the country has faced during this period. In the past 3 months, this rate is the lowest, only surpassed by 2 other instances. The first was in August 2023 when the exchange rate soared above 100 rubles to the dollar, and the second was immediately after the invasion of Ukraine, both times reflecting intense economic instability. These instances of depreciation were driven by significant geopolitical events and internal economic pressures, showing the ruble's vulnerability to both domestic policies and international relations. The current rate of 92.5 rubles to the dollar reflects the ongoing economic challenges placing Russia in a difficult position. The impact of this economic downturn is profound, affecting everything from national financial stability to the everyday purchasing power of ordinary Russians. Over the past year, Russia has experienced a sharp increase in inflation. As of July 2023, inflation was at 4.3%, which was close to the Central Bank of Russia's target of 4%. However, this scenario drastically changed over the subsequent 12 months. By July 2024, inflation skyrocketed to 99.1%, more than double the target rate. This surge in inflation is particularly notable because it contrasts with trends in most other countries where inflation has been decreasing due to higher interest rates and falling prices globally. The steep rise in Russia's inflation is not linked to any global event like COVID-19, but comes from specific internal factors within the Russian economy. Over the last year, Russia has shifted towards a wartime economy, significantly impacting its economy. This shift means that many companies within Russia have been brought under state control. The government has directed these companies to prioritize production that supports the war effort in Ukraine. Because of this focus, these companies are no longer driven by market demands or the need for innovate and develop new products. Instead, they're being funded directly by the Kremlin, which ensures financial stability for these companies but also ties their operations tightly to state directives. This setup simplifies operations for these companies in some ways, but also ties their fortunes close to the state's military and political objectives. This transition to the wartime economy has several implications. It places enormous pressure on the national budget and diverts resources from other areas of the economy, contributing to the rapid inflation. As resources are funneled into defense and related industries, other sectors may face shortages and price hikes, further fueling inflation. But that's not all. The policy of directing Russia's economy toward wartime efforts is exacerbating inflation for several other reasons as well. Firstly, the country has experienced a significant loss of its workforce. Around 1.2 million people have left Russia since the invasion of Ukraine, unwilling to be conscripted into the conflict. This exodus has resulted in a labor shortage, compelling companies that are now reliant on state sponsorship to offer higher salaries to attract new employees. These companies need to outbid others to fill their ranks, which creates a competitive wage spiral across various sectors. From an employee's perspective, higher wages might seem beneficial, but for the companies, this trend is problematic. They're losing staff to state-sponsored enterprises and must increase their own wage offers to attract replacements. This inflow of higher wages into the economy means that people have more money to spend, which increases consumer demand. Moreover, Russia is facing difficulties in sourcing products. Sanctions have severely limited the import of goods, leading to a scarcity that drives prices up even higher. This combination of high wages, increased demand, and limited supply is a classic recipe for rising inflation. These dynamics are placing immense pressure on the Russian economy at a time when the central bank is desperately trying to control inflation and bring it back to the target of 4%. One of the primary tools at their disposal is manipulating interest rates. By adjusting these rates, the central bank hopes to temper inflationary pressures, but the effectiveness of this strategy amidst such widespread economic disruption remains to be seen. Now let's take a closer look at the recent developments with interest rates and their impact on the economy. Over the past 3 years, the official interest rate in Russia has seen significant changes, particularly in the last 12 months, which aligns with the rising inflation we've been discussing. In July 2023, the official interest rate in Russia was 7.5%. Since then, the Russian central bank has raised the rate on 7 different occasions, with the current rate now at a substantial 18%. This increase at 10.5% within a year is remarkable and positions Russia's interest rate among the highest compared to other major economies. Currently, only Turkey and Argentina have higher interest rates than Russia, at 50% and 40% respectively. Both countries grappling with the economic crises. Other countries with double-digit interest rates include Mexico and Brazil, but when comparing Russia's rate to that of major Western economies like the USA, 5.5%, the UK, 5%, Canada, 4.5%, Australia, 4.35%, and the Eurozone, 4.25%, Russia's rate is more than 3 times higher. This huge difference illustrates the severe economic challenges Russia faces. Despite these aggressive rate hikes, the Russian central bank has not been successful in controlling inflation, which continues to rise. This ongoing issue indicates that further rate increases might be necessary until inflation reaches the target rate of 4%. This situation means trouble for the Russian economy, as high interest rates can deter both companies and individuals from taking on debt, which is necessary for financing expansions and fostering economic growth. High interest rates are intended to curb spending and borrowing, but they also restrict economic development by limiting access to capital. This can lead to a slowdown in economic activity, impacting everything from business operations to employment rates. In Russia, food inflation has seen a significant increase over the past year, impacting the economically vulnerable groups who spend a large part of their income on food. Initially in June 2023, food inflation was recorded at less than 0.2%. However, data from June 2024 reveals a sharp rise, with food inflation escalating to nearly 10%. This rate outstrips the general inflation, placing even more pressure on those who are least financially secure. Without savings to cushion the blow, these individuals face harsh choices, such as purchasing less food. A key economic indicator, the Producer Price Index, has also seen dramatic shifts in Russia over the past year. In July 2023, the increase in producer prices was a modest 4.1%, closely aligned with the target inflation rate of 4%. However, by October 2023, these prices had increased to nearly 22%, and as of July 2024, they remain high at 13.7%. These producer prices, also known as factory gate prices, indicate the cost of goods as they leave the manufacturing stage and are destined for stores, other companies within Russia, or international markets. A 13.7% increase in these prices suggests that costs will soon be passed on to consumers, potentially driving up inflation in the coming months. This constant rise in producer prices above general inflation rates signals ongoing pressures of inflation. It shows that the central bank's efforts to fix inflation are yet to be effective. With producer prices still high, further increases in inflation could lead the central bank to raise interest rates again, attempting to stabilize the economy. It means that this is going to be a continued economic challenge for Russia.